put the blame on Maine boy.
Before she died, Rita Hayworth supposedly revealed her 6 favorite films. It's a headline designed to stop your scroll. A perfect hook, a perfect lie. Because Rita never released a list. Not a top 6, not a top 3, nothing. The truth is far more interesting. Rita Hayworth talked rarely about fame, but when she did, her words hit like lightning. In one interview, she said the only jewels of her entire career were her films with Fred Astaire and one dazzling Technicolor musical. She openly admitted which movie she hated.
Is this true?
Well, no, he got me doing it.
Oh, I
Because he loves it.
see. Well, then that brings up
He's a beautiful dancer.
She confessed which role ruined her public image, and her collaborators revealed which productions lifted her up, and which ones nearly broke her. So tonight, we're not chasing clickbait. We're following Rita's own voice. Her real quotes, her real frustrations, her real joy. These aren't favorite films. They're the 6 movies that shaped Rita Hayworth's life. The ones she praised, resented, defended, or never stopped remembering. Number 6. Affair in Trinidad, 1952.
I think we could have gotten along without that last remark, don't you?
We start our countdown with a film Rita Hayworth never wanted to make. A movie she accepted only because she had no choice. A contract, a deadline, a studio that owned her. And the way she talked about it decades later tells you everything. In a 1970 New York Times interview, Rita remembered getting the script while staying in Switzerland. She didn't ease into the story. She didn't study the pages. She didn't negotiate. She threw the script across the room. Her words were sharp, unfiltered, unforgettable. I threw it across the room, but I did the picture because I had to finish that goddamn contract. That's how Harry Cohn owned me. Right away, you feel it. The exhaustion, the resentment, the weight of being Colombia's biggest star and Colombia's biggest captive. Affair in Trinidad was meant to recreate the lightning of Gilda. Same co-star, same studio, same chemistry they hoped to bottle a second time. But Rita wasn't the same woman. Hollywood wasn't the same. And that magic could never be engineered on command. Behind the scenes, the atmosphere was heavy. Director Vincent Sherman later said Rita walked onto the set, the saddest girl I've ever known. Quiet, withdrawn. A storm of private pain hidden behind that legendary smile. Yet, here's the twist. Even when unhappy, Rita worked like fire. Choreographer Valerie Bettis remembered her differently. Not sad, not broken, but fierce. Focused, ready to fight for the dance numbers. Bettis said Rita was the most cooperative artist she had ever worked with. She even added that she and Rita won all our battles on set. Example? The Trinidad Lady number. Studio executives wanted Rita in heels. Bettis wanted her barefoot. Rita wanted authenticity. Grounded movement, raw rhythm, skin on the floor. And together, they pushed back. They won. The barefoot dance stayed. One of the most hypnotic moments in the movie exists only because Rita refused to let the studio dictate her every step. And that's what makes this film fascinating. Not the plot, not the reception, not the attempts to mirror Gilda, but the war happening behind the camera. A woman fighting a system designed to control her, while still delivering a performance the audience would never suspect came from sorrow. Rita's relationship with this movie reveals something crucial. She didn't sugarcoat anything. She didn't pretend every job was joyful. She worked because she had to. She danced because she knew how. She pushed through personal grief, studio pressure, and a role she never wanted, and still gave a performance people remember. So here's the question for you. Do you respect an actor more when they're honest about the films they hated? Or do you think fans should expect diplomacy? Tell me below, because Rita's honesty makes this film one of the most revealing chapters in her career. Number 5. Down to Earth, 1947.
Oh, Danny. Danny, I've come back. He tried to take me away, but I've come back to you.
If Affair in Trinidad was the film Rita never wanted to make, Down to Earth was the film she wished she'd never seen again. Because while studios marketed it as a light, fantasy musical, Rita saw something else, a misfire, a mistake, a movie that didn't match her talent or her taste. And unlike most stars of her era, she admitted it, bluntly, publicly, and without hesitation. According to long-standing Hollywood trivia, Rita called Down to Earth her least favorite film. Not one of her least favorites. Not a difficult experience. Her least favorite. Period. Imagine being Rita Hayworth, the woman who danced with both Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly, trapped in a Technicolor premise about a Greek muse descending from Mount Olympus to fix a Broadway show. She didn't buy it. Critics didn't buy it. Audiences barely bought it either. Rita hated fantasy plots without emotional grounding. She liked real characters, real stakes, real heat. This was mythology meets musical theater. A cotton candy story that never let her fire light up the screen. And she knew it. Behind the scenes, however, Rita still delivered. She hit her marks. She danced the choreography. She brought glamour to every frame because that was her job, even when her heart wasn't in it. But if you study her performance closely, you'll notice something rare. She feels distant, detached, almost like she's watching the film from the outside. It's the opposite of Gilda, where she burns through the screen. Here she glows, but lightly, politely, professionally. And that contrast is important. It tells you exactly what Rita valued. Because when she praised her Astaire films, she meant it. When she cherished CoverGirl, she meant it. And when she said she disliked Down to Earth, she meant that too. Rita wasn't fake. She wasn't Hollywood plastic. She was honest, sometimes brutally. And that honesty is why this film deserves a spot on our countdown. Not because Rita loved it, but because her reaction to it reveals the kind of artist she truly was. Someone who recognized quality, someone who respected craft, someone who knew when a script failed her and wasn't afraid to say so. But even more interesting is how the public responded. Decades later, fans look back at Down to Earth with a strange fascination. It's like a time capsule of late 1940s Hollywood optimism. Bright colors, fantasy sets, hopeful music. Yet at the center is a woman who was about to transform into something deeper, richer, more complex. One film later, she would become Gilda, the role that defined her image forever. So here's a question to pull you into this story. Do you trust an actor more when they're honest about their failures? Or do you prefer the illusion that every film was special? Tell me in the comments, because Rita's clarity here is priceless. Number 4. Gilda, 1946.
If there's anything I love, it's a spontaneous, impulsive compliment like that. And because you're so nice, I'm going to show you something.
If Down to Earth showed Rita Hayworth at her most disconnected, Gilda showed her at her most unforgettable. This is the performance that rewrote her destiny. The film that turned her into a myth, a legend, a fantasy too big for the real woman behind it. And that's exactly why Rita had such conflicted feelings about it. Because Gilda wasn't just a role, it was a cage. The world saw a goddess, a temptress, a woman who could destroy a man with one look. But Rita, she saw something else entirely. A mask she could never take off. Her most famous line, and one she repeated for years, still cuts like a knife. Every man I knew went to bed with Gilda and woke up with me. That isn't glamour. That's exhaustion. That's frustration. That's someone being devoured by her own legend. And Hollywood didn't help. When the US prepared to test an atomic bomb at Bikini Atoll, studio publicists plastered the warhead with a giant pinup of Rita labeled Gilda. It was meant to be cheeky. But to her, it was humiliating. Orson Welles remembered it clearly. She almost went insane with anger. She wanted a press conference. She wanted to say something. She wanted to defend herself. But Columbia boss Harry Cohn shut her down. Because to him, Gilda wasn't Rita. Gilda was money. And that's the tragedy of all this. The woman who hated being objectified played the most objectified character of her era. But let's talk about the movie itself, because it's a masterpiece. The camera loved her. The lighting adored her. Her entrance, flipping her hair back and saying, "Me? Sure, I'm decent," is one of the greatest moments in noir history. No CGI, no special effects. Just presence, just Rita. And yet, beneath the glamour, her pain is visible if you know where to look. There's a sharpness in her eyes, a tension in her smile, moments where she seems to be fighting the image being projected onto her. Her chemistry with Glenn Ford only adds to the complexity. Ford later said Gilda was his favorite film because he got to work with his lifelong friend Rita. His son confirmed that there was real tenderness between them, something unspoken but deeply felt. Watch any scene of them arguing. It's not acting. It's two people who trust each other enough to be raw on camera. And that's why Gilda works. It isn't just a noir, it's a wound wrapped in diamonds. A question for you before we move on. Does knowing how much Rita hated the consequences of Gilda change the way you watch it today? Does it make the performance deeper, sadder, more human? Tell me your take, because this film means something different once you know the truth. Number 3. CoverGirl, 1944. If her Astaire films made her a dancer, CoverGirl made her a star. Bright, explosive, Technicolor perfection. This was the movie that told the world Rita Hayworth wasn't just a partner, she was a powerhouse. Gene Kelly needed someone who could match him beat for beat. Someone who could sparkle beside the most athletic dancer in Hollywood. And Rita didn't just match him, she elevated him. In a 1970 interview, she said something that reveals everything. The only jewels of my life were the pictures I made with Fred Astaire. And CoverGirl, too. That's as close as she ever got to naming favorites. And the fact that she put CoverGirl beside Astaire's films, that tells you exactly how much this one meant. Why this film? Because it was the first time Rita wasn't supporting a dance legend. She was the center of the frame. Her name came first. Her face drove the story. Her character, Rusty Parker, was the movie. But here's the real beauty of it. She didn't just act the part, she became it. There's a quiet moment backstage, hardly ever discussed, where Rusty looks at herself in the mirror, overwhelmed by opportunity. And you can feel Rita inside that scene. A girl from Brooklyn suddenly carrying Columbia Pictures on her shoulders. The production itself was a challenge. Gene Kelly was experimenting. Mirrors, shadows, split-screen effects. The famous alter ego dance wasn't just groundbreaking. It was a pain to shoot. The whole sequence depended on perfection, precise timing, exact positioning, endless rehearsal. Gene Kelly later said that Rita handled it with grace, patience, and discipline. And he didn't hand out those compliments lightly. Watch the scene again and notice something. Rita never blinks, never hesitates, never falls behind. She moves like she's floating. But that illusion required grueling work. And audiences felt it. CoverGirl became Columbia's biggest hit of 1944. It made Rita a wartime pinup. It put her on magazine covers around the world. But success always came with a shadow. Because CoverGirl was the moment studios realized they could sell her beauty as a brand. And that branding would haunt her later, especially after Gilda. Still, there's no denying the joy in this performance. Rita is luminous, alive, free in a way she rarely allowed herself to be off-screen. Gene Kelly dances like he's trying to impress her. And honestly, he probably was. So here's your audience question. Is Rita better with Fred Astaire or Gene Kelly? Two dance giants, two very different styles, but only one woman who danced with both and shined with both. Now, tell me what you think in the comments. Who brought out her best? Number 2. You Were Never Lovelier, 1942. If You'll Never Get Rich sparked the magic, You Were Never Lovelier proved it wasn't a fluke. Because this wasn't just a sequel in spirit, it was a declaration, a promise, a confirmation that Rita Hayworth wasn't simply good with dancers. She was a world-class partner who could glide, spin, and shine beside the greatest tap artist who ever lived. Fred Astaire said something quietly, almost offhand, but it explains everything. He looked forward to working with her again. That's rare. Astaire wasn't sentimental. He wasn't impressed easily, but with Rita, he saw something special. Grace, precision, discipline. and an effortless smile that made every routine look like they rehearsed it in a dream. Columbia built this movie like a love letter to their chemistry, a fictional Buenos Aires, a romantic garden, soft fountains, moonlit steps, all arranged so that the camera could watch two people dance like they were telling a secret. And the centerpiece? I'm old-fashioned. Maybe the most elegant dance number Rita ever performed. No pyrotechnics, no technical tricks. Just two people gliding across the floor like time stopped to watch them. Astaire leads, Rita follows. But not really. She matches him. She answers him. She becomes the rhythm he needs. And here's the thing people forget. Rita wasn't a trained ballroom dancer. Her background was Latin, fast hips, sharp movements, earthy, powerful. Astaire's world was the opposite, light, airy, symmetrical. They should not have worked, but they did, perfectly. Because Rita had an ability Astaire rarely found in partners. She could absorb his style without losing her own, and he noticed. In interviews, he said she learned routines faster than anyone he'd worked with. He said she had confidence he hadn't seen before. He said she was delightful, which from Astaire is practically a sonnet. But there's something deeper happening in this film. For the first time, Rita looks relaxed, radiant, happy. There's a sense of ease in her face that disappears in later pictures. No tension behind the smile, no calculating about the camera angles, just joy. The script is light, the story is simple, but the feeling? Pure escapism. And then maybe that's why she later called the Astaire films the jewels of my life. Not because they were her best roles, but because they were her safest, her happiest. The moments when acting didn't feel like war. Rita once said she loved these films because they reminded her of who she was before Hollywood swallowed her whole. And if CoverGirl was proof that Rita could lead, You Were Never Lovelier was proof she could shine as a partner without being overshadowed. So here's your question. Do you prefer Rita in romantic musicals like this? Or in darker roles like Gilda? Which Rita feels more authentic to you? Let me know, because your answer says a lot about what you see when you look at her. Number 1, you'll never get rich.
No, he got me doing it.
Oh, I
Because he loves it.
Well, then that brings up
He's a beautiful dancer.
Before the gowns, before the legends, before the myth of Rita Hayworth fully formed, there was You'll Never Get Rich, a film that didn't just revive her career, it redefined it. Because this was the moment Hollywood finally understood what it had. Not just a beauty, not just a studio creation, but a dancer, a performer, a woman who could stand beside Fred Astaire, the man who made every partner look like they were floating, and not only keep up, but match him, step for step, turn for turn, smile for smile. And Astaire saw it instantly. In interviews, he kept saying the same thing, almost with disbelief. She learned faster than anyone I ever worked with. Think about that. Fred Astaire worked with Ginger Rogers, Sid Charisse, Eleanor Powell. Icons, legends. But Rita, the girl from Brooklyn who grew up in a family of professional dancers, outran them all in rehearsal speed. That's the part people forget. She wasn't a Hollywood puppet. She wasn't molded. She was born into rhythm, born into movement, born into the fire of performing. And You'll Never Get Rich was the movie that let the world see it. The plot, light, playful, a military romance wrapped in screwball comedy. But the film itself was never about the story. It was about the dance. So near and yet so far. If you show any clip in this section, show that one. It's the moment where it all clicks. The chemistry, the precision, the way their bodies sync like they've been dancing together for years. Astaire's footwork is crisp. Rita's movements are sharper, more grounded, with that unmistakable Latin undertone she inherited from her father. Together, electric. And here's something fascinating. The film came at a low point for her career. Columbia had been burying her in B pictures. Rita was exhausted, overlooked, underused. Then Astaire chose her. He didn't have to. He was already royalty. He could have demanded any partner in Hollywood. But he saw what others didn't. He saw her potential. And she rewarded him with one of the most dazzling performances of her early career. Even Rita herself later looked back on these films with deep affection. In 1970, she said, "The only jewels of my life were the pictures I made with Fred Astaire. Not fame, not awards, not publicity, not glamour, those films. Because they reminded her who she was before Hollywood tried to turn her into someone else. And that's why You'll Never Get Rich matters so much. It wasn't just her breakthrough, it was her homecoming." So here's the question for you. Is this the moment Rita Hayworth truly became Rita Hayworth? Or did her real transformation come later, with The Dark Fire of Gilda? Tell me your take, because the answer depends on how you see her story. So, did Rita Hayworth ever sit down and reveal her 6 favorite films before she died? Number. That list never existed. But something far more meaningful did. She left us clues, small comments, quiet admissions, moments where the mask slipped and the real woman spoke. And when you connect those pieces, you don't get a list of 6 movies. You get a portrait of someone searching for joy in an industry that demanded perfection. The Astaire films, You'll Never Get Rich, You Were Never Lovelier, those were her safe places. CoverGirl was her pride. Gilda was her curse. Down to Earth was her regret. Affair in Trinidad was her resilience. Together they form a map of who she was behind the sparkle. Not a bombshell, not a fantasy, a worker, a dancer. A woman trying to survive a system that owned her image but never truly understood her heart. So let me ask you this. Which Rita do you see? The myth, the dancer, the tragic beauty, or the fighter beneath it all? Tell me in the comments, because your answer helps keep her real story alive. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Hollywood history, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more.